Good morning and welcome to the Daily Connect. My name is Raymond and I'm so glad you could be a part of this time together. We're looking at God's Word. We're seeing where the Lord is leading us and who the Lord is calling us to be. Today is Friday. We are entering into what I call Wow, or Weekend of Worship, and it is a great opportunity for us to, as I've been sharing for the last number of weeks, let's begin preparing for that time of worship beginning today. Let's prepare our offerings. Let's prepare our hearts. Let's even prepare our clothes. Let's get ready to bring the Lord our very best because He deserves the best. He is the best, and so this is all about us, His children, coming together and just bringing great glory to His name. We're also going through the book of Mark, or the Gospel of Mark, and if you hear some noise in the back, just please disregard. We've got some bushes that are being trimmed just outside of my office, and but it's not going to take our attention away from the Word. We're looking at Mark chapter 15, starting from verse 16. We're fast approaching the end of Mark. Mark only has 16 chapters, and so I want to start preparing what the next book of the Bible is going to be that we're going to go over. If you've got any thoughts, any comments about that, do share it. Share it in the live chat. Excuse me. Share it in the comments below, or just drop me a line and let me know, what do you think is the next book of the Bible that we should tackle, that we should take a look at. Without further ado, we're looking at Mark chapter 15. We're continuing through, you could say, the journey to the cross. We are in the final moments of Passion Week, leading up to the crucifixion of Jesus. And in the scene that we had just read yesterday, we had one of the last things that we saw or we read about was the flogging of Jesus. Today, we're only going to look at a handful of verses, but I wanted to slow things down because it is such a great reminder of of the sacrifice of Jesus. Often, when we think about the sacrifice of Jesus, we our minds go to just the cross, and we don't see all the things that led up to the cross, everything that Jesus endured. The mocking, the beatings, everything. And this week, I wanted to slow things down as we take a look at literally all of the things that Jesus went through for us. His atonement, his sacrifice upon the cross, it exacted a huge price. It wasn't just that one moment that we have commemorated in a beautifully constructed wooden cross. There's so much more to that. So let's dive right into it. Pull up a comfortable chair, grab something warm to drink, and let's open up our Bibles. And again, your physical Bibles, and let's open them up to Mark chapter 15. We're going to start from verse 16, and let's see what the Lord has to say. And there we go. All right. We're going through the book of Mark, or the Gospel of Mark, and I titled this, The Pain That Was Prophesied. The Pain That Was Prophesied. Suffering That Continued Relentlessly. Mark chapter 15, verses 16 through 20. Let's take a look. Starting from verse 16. And the soldiers led him away inside the palace, that is, the governor's headquarters, and they called together the whole battalion. Now, again, looking at this, there's a lot to take in. Again, one of the biggest challenges that we can have right now, especially where we are at, is taking in the larger context. Again, he had been tried unfairly in the middle of the night, illegally by the Sanhedrin. Then he was beaten, and then he was taken to all these different places, being tried a number of times, and as Pilate was failing to, in a sense, save Jesus' life, he ends up having him flogged. And if we look at some of the other Gospels and piece this together, after he was flogged, he was brought before the people for a last ditch attempt to save Jesus' life, and then after that, having failed that, he was brought into the governor's palace. Now here, I just want to make clear. So Pilate's palace of governance, where he basically is stationed at, is in Caesarea. I mentioned about Caesarea, and Caesarea is 35 miles outside of Jerusalem. And I mentioned Caesarea yesterday because that's where his main palace is. But he does have a residence here in Jerusalem, and in the Greek, it's called the Praetorium. I mean, we've heard of the Praetorium before, especially if you are looking at some of the reenactments of that crucifixion, and the Praetorium is where this exchange between Pilate and Jesus, and Pilate and the religious leaders all took place. And this is his residence, Pilate's residence in Jerusalem. He would always come here, allow his presence to be a reminder to the people during the festivals when all of Israel, all the men of Israel gather together to remind everybody, hey, the Romans are still here. The Romans are still here. And then if you've heard me preach on this particular section, the Greek word for battalion is spira. Spira is probably better translated as a cohort, which means that it is 1/10 of a Roman legion. So that puts it at about roughly 600 soldiers. Again, I think it's so important to be mindful of this. You have 600 Roman soldiers, and I want to emphasize Roman. 600 Roman soldiers that were present in this space, in the Praetorium, that during this festival, during this Passover festival, that would end up essentially beating up Jesus. Maybe it's not all 600, but it's still a lot, considering the fact that they were Romans. And I'll go into that in a moment here. Verse 17, and they clothed him in purple cloak, and twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on him, and they began to salute him, "Hail, King of the Jews." Now, again, the soldiers here were mocking Jesus in every possible way. You know, they put upon him this purple garment, and purple is an expensive material of that time. It is often associated with royalty, and so they had this. However they did it, they had access to this purple material, draped it on Jesus, and wove together a crown of thorns. Now, all this is to mock Jesus because of the claims that he is a king. They probably heard it from Pilate, and Pilate was interpreting this from the Jewish leaders here. The crown of thorn probably was not intentionally designed as an instrument of suffering. It was probably the only thing that they had available because of the fact that they were all mocking him. And this crown of thorns was intended to continue or to extend that mocking of Jesus as king. This hail King of the Jews is to be a parallel, a sarcastic remark about Jesus being treated like Caesar, This is supposed to imitate the salute of Caesar. And then on top of all this, I'm sure I'm sure he had already been bleeding and had experienced such a beating from the flogging that took place just earlier on. And so it's, I mean, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but to experience an injury so severe, your your arm is drenched with blood, and then you lay a cloth on top of that, and you're being mocked, you're being beaten, and then to have that cloth removed from you later on, it's got to be such an excruciating moment. This is part of the suffering that Jesus went through for us. Again, we can't just look at the cross and say, "Oh yeah, he died for us." It is so much more than that. So much more than that. Verse 19. And they were striking his head with a reed and spitting on him and kneeling down in homage to him. Again, at least hundreds of these men were mocking Jesus and beating upon him, taking rods, sticks, and striking him on the head, and then to walk by and just spit upon him and to mock him like this. This is this is torturous, to say the least. The word were striking here in the original Greek, it's put in the imperfect active tense, which is to say that they were hitting him over and over and over again. This is not something that they just struck him once and then was done with it. They kept beating upon him. And the beating and the spitting upon Jesus, ironically, was fulfillment of Micah chapter 5, Isaiah chapter 50, and chapter 53. This all speaks to, I mean, literally, there's a prophecy of being spat upon, and this is part of the suffering servant that the Old Testament had prophesied about, particularly Isaiah 53. And you got to wonder about the underlying motivation. What was going on in the minds of these Roman soldiers? And again, I want to emphasize that the fact that they were Romans. This was probably, for lack of a better term, this is a racist attack. I mean, you talk about. I mean, we read news articles, news reports about hate crimes going on today in this modern day context. Well, we're talking about here with regards to Jesus, again, lack of a better term, concentrated hate crime being committed upon Jesus. You have hundreds of Roman soldiers who hate Jews, who despise the Jews, who felt like they could have been doing something more productive than to come to Jerusalem and observe religious acts of these people that are under Roman rule. You know, they probably hated the Jews, and for all of them to take this all out on the King of the Jews, it's no wonder Jesus experienced such humiliation, such beatings. You got to ask yourself, oh, what are they to gain out of all this? Quite honestly, nothing other than just to bleed off some pressure, that hatred that they have towards Jesus. Let's finish this up. In verse 20. And when they they had mocked him, they stripped him of the purple cloak and put on his own clothes on him, and they led him out to crucify him. So here again, they took off the purple cloak, and again, his blood drenched body probably caused this purple cloak to be uh, literally glued upon his skin, and then to have that peeled off, and then his own clothes finally being put back on. He was probably um, he was he never had his clothes back on since the flogging, and for all the way from verse 15, and I mean, this is just too much. This is just too much when you really think about that suffering of Jesus and everything that he went through. This is insane. It's inhumane. I mean, we often look at the cross, the crucifixion, as brutal, but we cannot forget everything that led up to it, everything that Jesus went through. At this point, an ordinary man would have already died from the flogging, and then for to endure even more going into this, and it's at this point that Pilate made his his appeal for Jesus, but mob mentality had set in, and there was no room for compassion. They were all set. This whole time was raised to a frenzy, and as a result, with all alternatives failing, Jesus was then sent out to be crucified. So, looking at these 5 verses, what's your big takeaway? How do you read this passage? What is the Lord speaking to you about this this treatment of Jesus? And this is not even the cross itself. What's your big takeaway? Share it in the live chat. Share it in the comments below. But what is that big takeaway for you? For me, my big takeaway is this, and it almost doesn't seem right to be saying this, but our pain and sacrifice for Jesus is so minuscule compared to what he endured for us. I mean, when you really think about all that Jesus went through, and to think that we're suffering for Jesus, that we're going through hardships right now, this is nothing compared to what Jesus went through for us, what Jesus experienced for the sake of our place before the Lord. We really have nothing to complain about. We should have been the ones to have gone through the flogging, the beating, the crucifixion, but it's not. Jesus took all of that. His bleeding was not just at the cross. His bleeding had started well before he reached the cross, and he bled for us. He took those strikes for us, and so whatever. We're going through all kinds of challenges right now, but hopefully this passage reminds us, puts it in better perspective, that the suffering that we go through for the sake of Christ is nothing compared to the sacrifice and the pain and the torture that Jesus went through for us. Amen. All right. Thank you, everyone, for once again sharing in this time together. You guys are awesome. Waking up early or staying up late, depending on where you're coming from, what you were doing, and just giving this time over to the Lord, looking upon His Word. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you once again, Gabby, Jeanette, Joanna, Sonia, Rich, Alistair, and Bernadette. Guys, you guys are amazing. I love you guys, and I'm so looking forward to sharing this time of worship with you all this weekend. Looking forward to it. Let's prepare our hearts. Let's prepare everything for worship, starting right now. With that, love you guys. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.